All right, hey everyone, how's it going? I'm going to be doing a patch rundown for the patch 16.2. So talking about all the buffs, balance changes, what I expect to be strong, that kind of stuff for the new patch. Anyways, we can hop right into it. So there's a new encounter, which is a Gwen encounter. And it basically gives everyone salvage bin. So after the first 3 carousels, you get a random component and a pair of scissors that cut items into components. So essentially how you're going to play this encounter is you're just going to slam all your items super aggressively. And then you can always reforge into bits later with the scissors. So it's basically as if everyone has salvage bin. And you probably don't want to click salvage bin in this encounter. Anyways, getting into, there's some Bilgewater changes. So Bilgewater 2 costs are becoming more expensive. That's going to make it harder to reroll like Graves 3 and TF3 on level 8. So it's going to be more of like an MF2 centric comp. There's a small nerf to Captain's Brew. I think Captain's Brew should still be really good and worth going for. Also a small nerf to Dead Man's Dagger. But I don't think this nerf is going to, I don't think these item nerfs are going to affect it too much. And Bilgewater is also getting some buffs in some other places. So I think Bilgewater is still going to be in a really good spot. Ionia, they are nerfing Paths of the Prosperous, which is the gold on kill one, specifically for 3 and 5. It's quite a big nerf for 5. I wonder if you're ever actually going to want to play 7 for this one now. But for now, I would probably just keep playing 5. And that was by far the best Ionia. And it ended up being like super contested. So paired with the Ionia nerfs, it's probably going to be like a little bit weaker now, but it's probably still playable for sure. Like I wouldn't expect it to be dead at all. Path of the Transcendence, they're trying to make it more of like for reroll. So they're buffing the 3-star bonus by a lot, and they are slightly nerfing the magic damage. So I think this one actually should be really good for Yasuo reroll now because the 3-star bonus is like huge now. Like the 3-star bonus got like a really, really big buff. And Path of Spirits is getting a small damage nerf and a small HP buff. 25% HP is actually like so much for a 3-piece. I feel like this one was already pretty good, and it will probably still be pretty good. It's probably better for Ionia now, actually, because you're not really like playing around like Ahri as much, and you just get like more HP on your entire team. So, so yeah, a little bit like maybe Prosperous is like a little bit less high prio, but still good. And yeah, maybe Transcendence is a bit better for Yasuo reroll. But overall, Ionia should be like slightly weaker paired with Ionia nerf. That's later, and then. But it should definitely still be playable. The lose 10 player combats has been nerfed to 500 sun shards. I think this quest is probably like borderline like unclickable now because it's super well in high elo. It's like very, very common. Like everyone will try and grief you if you click this quest. And a 500 cash out is like actually not enough to win the game. You need to get like a 550 or like a 625 cash out to win the game. So that means that you need to actually keep questing after you lose 10 combats, and losing 10 combats usually puts you at like 1 or 2 lives. So I think this quest is actually like borderline unclickable now. Although I actually already kind of thought it was unclickable because if people are playing well, then they'll just like grief your cash out. As for this quest, play 3 Ixtal for 13 rounds. I think this quest is going to be like amazing, like super OP. If you get it early, like as long as you can just like play the game, play a board, whatever. You just need to win like a few rounds, and you're like always making it to Brock. And yeah, like so, like even though this is like 10 combats and this is 13 combats, there's no way to grief this one. And as long as you make like any sort of a board, like you can even like reroll with this to save HP. Like in stage 3, for example, if you just roll down for some sort of like I don't know what the Ixtal rerolls are anymore. Maybe like with some bard buffs that are later, then you can play like Ixtal reroll with this. But yeah, I think this is going to be like one of the best quests if you get it exactly on 2-1. That being said, they are nerfing the 550 cash outs. So, or well, they're nerfing the double dupe cash out, and it now gives like a completed item anvil. So you don't just spawn in with the Brock 2 and instantly win the game on that cash out. I do still think that 550 cash is a lot better than 500 cash and worth going for. And 625 cash is probably better than 550 cash as well now. So you probably would rather cash out like 625 and then 550 and then 500. Next, Juggernaut is getting a 1% damage reduction buff. I don't actually... well, I guess it's a 3% at the max. Maybe there could be some like Juggernaut Jinx stuff, but other than that, I don't really think this is like a big change. Noxus is getting a lot of buffs. I would expect it to be like playable, but probably doesn't win very often. Like probably still quite a top 4 comp. They're nerfing the Electrical Overload Piltover. This one was really strong paired with like T-Hex and Diana. I think most comps are probably going to go for like Blast Shield now, because Blast Shield was already a bit better when you're like front to back. Shadow Isle's getting some small AP AD buffs at 4 and 5. I don't really think this makes too much of a difference, although I think there's some like Callista buffs later that could make a big difference. And Zon is getting a durability buff, and the 5 heal is also getting a buff. These could definitely make a difference, although Zon was pretty weak before. Now getting into some 2 costs, they're nerfing like Tempo Bard, like Lost Streaking with Bard. I think a lot of people were expecting this. You probably only go for Bard now if you're like getting it for free, like with an augment that gives rerolls, like Patience is a Virtue, Trait Sector, that kind of thing. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be worth going for. Or if you're playing like a one cost reroll, you could definitely like roll for Bard, like Sona reroll. You can definitely roll for Bard. But yeah, other than that, I don't think Bard's going to be like super worth going for all the time, like he was before, because it gives you a lot less rerolls on your 3/5 roll down. They are buffing his damage though to compensate. They're trying to make him more of like a reroll guy. Maybe this helps like Ixtal reroll a little bit. We'll have to see if that actually makes a difference. Yeah, Graves is getting nerfed. So combined with the Silver Serpent's nerf to make it more expensive to buy a Graves 3, I think you're not really going to go for Graves 3 anymore in Bilgewater. I think you're just going to go for MF2 and buy a bunch of like stat upgrades and items and stuff. Teemo is getting buffed at 3-star. I don't expect Yorl reroll to be very strong. I don't think this is going to be like a big change. Tryndamere is getting huge nerfs to his durability, his spell damage, and his his passive move speed doesn't really make a big difference, but the spell damage and base durability is like, these are like gigantic nerfs. Like, look at this nerf, like 270 to like 225, that's like a 20% nerf to his spell damage. So I think Tryndamere is like pretty much completely dead. Maybe with Rapid Fire Cannon it's playable, but yeah, that's about it. I think Tryndamere is like pretty dead on the new patch. Brevin, thank you, Larry. Thank you. I'm just doing a quick patch rundown since there's a QE notes. Anyways, Twisted Fate got a big buff to his passive damage. He should be a lot better early game because like the spell is like the 3 cards that he throws out, which is usually what's doing a lot of the damage later. But this is basically buffing his like auto attack damage, right? So he's going to be like a lot more consistent early game, and I think sometimes you can like 3-star him in Bilgewater as well. He was already pretty decent 3-starred in Bilgewater, even before this buff. So I think TF should be like a pretty decent unit to play around. Maybe you're not always playing around Graves in Bilgewater now. Like if you have a Rageblade, you might rather Rageblade your TF than your Graves. Darius is getting a buff. This also helps Vertical Noxus a little bit. I don't know if he's going to be like someone that you want to reroll still. Draven's getting a base AD buff, but a spell damage nerf. I think Mortdog said that this is supposed to be like more upfront damage, but less damage like later in the fight. I think Draven will probably end up like pretty neutral. Draven reroll will be like pretty niche. Maybe you can play it sometimes. Tempoing Draven will be really good into Fast 9 Kindred, I'm sure. Kobuko, they're doing like a bug fix and like a compensation buff, so they said he should be around the same. Jinx spell has been rewritten so that it bugs out less often, and she's getting like a huge damage buff, like almost 2 times. Yeah, I think Jinx might be meta. I'm not really sure what the Jinx board would be yet. I do think like the difference between Jinx 2 and Jinx 3, like she's kind of someone that you just need a lot of frontline, and then she'll eventually kill everything. So I wouldn't really expect it to be like Jinx reroll. I'd more expect it to be like a Jinx 2 like tempo kind of thing, and maybe you move the items off later onto like Ziggs or something. LeBlanc also getting a damage. This also like a damage buff. This also helps Noxus, and in the early game, it's gonna make that like LeBlanc Scion opener like a lot better. Like if you have some like JG plus a Scion, maybe you can actually unlock LeBlanc and try to play around like Noxus now. So overall, like I think of these changes, like the Jinx one is like most likely to be a big deal. I don't know if these Noxus changes are going to make Noxus like super OP. I think it might be like a top 4 comp at best. Mbessa is getting a pretty big buff. Like Gangplank Slayers was already kind of rising in the patch, so I feel like that Gangplank Mbessa Velvet trio carry board should definitely be quite good on the new patch, since they nerfed a lot of the top stuff and they're buffing like Mbessa as well. Diana is getting quite a big nerf. Like her shield is getting a massive nerf. I think Diana is also pretty dead, so I think Trinamir is dead and Diana is probably dead on the new patch. I don't really think you're going to be able to play those anymore. Kaisa is getting a pretty big, like almost 10% buff to. This is a 10% buff to her AD form. AD Kaisa was definitely weaker than AP Kaisa. Maybe they're going to be around the same level now. I think like Demacia long shots with like you can do like AD Kaisa and AP Ziggs. The pipeline kind of goes like on level 8 you have like your AD items on Vayne and your AP items on Kaisa, and then on level 9 you put your AP items on Ziggs and your AD items on Kaisa. So I think that's going to be like a very meta line, especially with there's some like Ziggs buffs later on. Anyways, Callista is getting an attack speed buff and also a mana buff, and they're changing her number of targets, but the total damage is unchanged. It is like a buff, and I guess they also are buffing like the AD of Shadow Isles. I feel like Shadow Isles was pretty weak though. I wouldn't expect this comp to average like better than like a 4.5 or something, but it might be playable sometimes from like a strong like Viego 2 opener. Misfortune is getting a pretty large 10% buff. There was some other Bilgewater like nerfs earlier on, but I think vertical Bilgewater will definitely be pretty good with these changes. And yeah, definitely it's just like a comp where you just go for like MF carry, Tom Kench tank, buy a bunch of stats, buy some items. Like I don't really think the Graves 3 is going to be too much in the picture anymore. Seraphine is getting a damage buff and a spell nerf. But this is definitely a Seraphine buff. I think they want to make her more of like a primary carry. Maybe you're building more like damage items on her than like Void and Morello. She's still going to be like very similar itemization. Like Void Morello is going to be good, but maybe Shojin JG is like a little more viable. And then yeah, I think she's definitely like pretty solid. Singed is getting his role changed to a tank. I don't really think this changes too much, and the move speed is just to compensate. They are buffing his heal a lot, but I still don't think Singed is going to be very good. I think he's like quite underpowered right now. Skarner getting a small nerf, but he was very strong before. He should still be quite good. Yunara getting also a small nerf, but Yunara was a very strong comp, so it should still be pretty viable after this, I think. Vigar is getting a nerf, which looks weird, but Mortdog talked about this, which was like there was a bug fix where if the guy that Vigar was hitting was moving, then his spell wouldn't do any damage, so I think this is actually overall supposed to be a buff. And Aurelion Sol getting a buff. On paper, this might look like a huge buff of like 350 to 450, but the thing is like his spell like upgrades, and those like spell upgrades are not actually getting a buff. So this is not like whatever, like 20% damage buff like it looks like. It's probably like a lot smaller than that. And yeah, I wouldn't really expect a Soul to be meta, even with these changes. Baron getting a small nerf to the Acid Glob damage, mostly on 1 star. I don't think this is going to change too much, though. I think this is like quite a small nerf. Kindred getting a pretty big nerf, actually. Kindred is like a really good unit, though. I think she should still be pretty good, like as a primary carry and in like Yunara. But I do think this nerf will be like quite noticeable. And yeah, this Senna nerf is mostly just like a nerf to if you're just putting like a Senna 1 on your board with like no items, it's going to do like less utility. But Senna should still be like a really good +1. T-Hex is getting completely gutted. They're nerfing the caster regen from 12 to 5. So if you do play T-Hex, that's probably not the way to play it anymore with like a Caitlyn 3. Like I don't think that's how you're going to play T-Hex. You're probably eating like Ornn or some other tank or something like that. They're also nerfing the shield and the damage. So yeah, T-Hex dead, Trinamir dead, Diana dead. If you're playing those comps, you're probably going to have to find something new to play. Ziggs getting massive buffs to his AS, mana, and passive damage. This passive damage buff is actually like gigantic. It's like a 50% damage buff. So I do think Ziggs is going to be like a Rageblade carry, not like more than like a Shojin carry. Because yeah, his passive damage is like pretty insane now, and they buffed his attack speed. And yeah, small Kraken nerf. All the Kraken guys are still gonna like Kraken. Maybe their cap is gonna be like slightly lower, but everyone that you're building Kraken on before, it's still good. It still gives more damage than a Deathblade. A lot of emblem buffs. Yeah, these emblem buffs is also a huge change. Stuff like World Runes, Spreading Roots is probably going to be like super OP on the new patch because they're basically making these emblems like as good as, if not better than, just like a completed item. Whereas before, like they were usually like much worse. So I mean, we can go through them really quickly. Bilgewater Emblem, a little bit weaker than an item. Demacia Emblem looks super strong, like on a Swain or something. This is like a full Protector's Vow on your Swain. Freljord Emblem was already one of the best emblems, and it's getting quite a lot of HP. Ionia Emblem was also a very solid emblem, although this is like a pretty small buff. Ixtal Emblem getting a pretty small buff. Same thing with Noxus Emblem. Void Emblem, these ones are not that good. Yordle Emblem is actually quite insane. If you take into account the HP and attack speed you get from the trait itself, this is like basically like an infinity force. So yeah, Yordle Emblem should be like very good actually. Zon Emblem is just getting a little bit of HP, so this is a pretty small buff. Arcanist Emblem was actually, I don't even think it was like that bad before, so I feel like this might be like kind of insane now. Bruiser Emblem getting a small buff, but it was already pretty good before. Defender Emblem getting quite a big buff. Defender Emblem was not too bad. Like you could just play. You always play 2 Defender with Defender Emblem because the vertical is terrible. But yeah, this should be like a pretty solid tank item now, and then obviously get like the 12 armor and a mar for your entire board. This Disruptor Emblem buff is kind of small, but Disruptor Emblem was one of the better emblems as well. Juggernaut Emblem getting the same buff as Defender. Gunslinger getting 20 AD. Quick Striker Emblem was also one of the best emblems. I'm surprised they decided to buff this one. I think Quick Striker Emblem will definitely be like an emblem that you're looking to get. But overall, like all of these emblem buffs is definitely going to make like emblem augments like a lot more appealing. Like branching out and spreading roots, I think those are going to be like really, really good now. And they're just buffing some of the weaker artifacts. I don't think this is going to change too much. I think these are still going to be on the weaker side, like Aegis of Dawn, Aegis of Dusk. It's quite a small buff. They're probably still going to be like, yeah, a bit on the weaker side. Same thing with Kappa Juice. Like this was like pretty much unclickable before. It's probably still not going to be that great. This Darken Scythe not being able to crit is like actually a really big deal and like a really big nerf because every single Darken Scythe user was like always building IE. And yeah, this Void Gauntlet is probably still going to be a little bit on the weak side, if I had to guess. And they're buffing some Radiant tank items because those ones were by far the weakest. Now, getting into the augments, Axiomata temporarily removed. Vandal Bounty is getting nerfed. My chat is telling me that Darken can still crit, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. I guess we'll just have to see. Birthday Reunion getting a nerf to level 7 for the Thieves' Gloves. This should still be pretty good. I mean, Battle Bounty is like, it's just like an augment that you click when you know you can get to 10 Yordle, so it's not really going to change anything, I think. Birthday Reunion is probably going to be a little bit worse. Level 6 to level 7 is quite a big nerf to like, maybe instead of having your TJ on 3-1, you're getting on like 3-5. That's like 3 rounds. It's going to be like an augment that you're still looking for with like gold openers and stuff though. Bronze for Life granting armor and MR instead of durability. This is like the prismatic one only. Birth Mindset removed, Hexgate Travel removed. Silco's Revenge getting a nerf. With the Zon buffs, like I think this is going to be like a good augment for Zon still. Because I know that this augment was like insane, but Zon was just very weak. Soul Awakening getting a small nerf. Soul Awakening should still be one of the top combat augments. Twilight of Trials should actually be really insane. Like, granting 2 copies of Zin instead of 1 is like such a big deal. And now if you are just holding like 1 copy of Zin on your bench and you get offered this, you have like a 2-star Zin like right away to streak. So yeah, I think this Zahin augment is going to be like insane now. And they are preemptively nerfing World Runes with the emblem buffs. But I do think World Runes is going to be stronger this patch than it was last patch. Still. And yeah, just some small changes and bug fixes. Notable bug fixes, maybe just that like the Vagar and blue buff properly interact now. T-Hex no longer fails to absorb his pilot, although I don't think there will be a lot of T-Hex on the new patch. And oh yeah, the Gunblade Fizz bug, they fixed that one. So before you couldn't build Gunblade on Fizz, he would only auto attack like twice empowered, but apparently it should be fixed now. So yeah, that's about it for the patch. Patch predictions. I think Diana's dead. I think Trinimir's dead. I think T-Hex is dead. I think like Demacia Longshots will be really good. I think Slayers will be really good. I think Ionia will be pretty good. I think Bilgewater will be pretty good. That's kind of my predictions. So yeah, thank you for watching.